Hello and welcome to the 17th Annual DisOrient Asian American Film Festival of Oregon. My name is Susan Hirata, and I'm the programming director for DisOrient. For 17 years, DisOrient has maintained this platform to celebrate and uplift the stories and voices of Asian Americans, Native Hawaiians, and Pacific Islanders. Today, it's my pleasure to host this conversation with 6 of our wonderful filmmakers from the shorts program, Resilient Women. We have today Florence Hwang, director, writer, producer of Dirty Laundry, Justine Kaneda, director, writer, and cast of Kintsugi, Brandon E. Lee, director of Jenni Rudolph, Water and Oil, Christy Wu, director, writer, producer of Trill, Ray Nomoto Robison, director, writer, producer of The Trunk, and Erica Eng, director and writer of Americanized. Hello and welcome. Thank you all for taking the time to chat with me today about your films. I particularly love this program of short films because it features strong, smart, brave, and resilient women. So thank you for that. I'm going to start out with a general question to all of you. Many of the films in this program explore the difficulty of finding your own identity when you seemingly don't neatly fit in. I'm wondering if you can all speak to this a little. Maybe just take turns. Or how about Florence? How about we start with you?
Well, my film is about mental health and the shame and the honor about with Asians and Chinese specifically. So I think identity in terms of for women, it's, having this, mental health condition or whatever it is, and not fitting in neatly to these boxes that we think we have to be. And if there's, anything, we're not even sure there's anything wrong with us necessarily, because we don't have the language, which I touch on, to really understand that. So I think, I'll leave it at that. Yeah.
So I want to just mention your film is Dirty Laundry. You all maybe want to mention that when you start talking, so people know what film that you're talking about. Okay, go ahead. Ray.
Okay, I guess I'm not muted. I hope not. Well, my film, I guess, kind of goes back into perhaps the idea of being bullied. I'm not a very big man. I've never have been. And I think so many people have experienced times when somebody who is bigger and stronger uses that as an advantage to dominate you. And I know it's an experience for a lot of people where you feel like you're the weaker, smaller person, and somebody's taking advantage of you. And with this film, it really is about finding what you have in you that can be used to your advantage, so that someone, purely because they're bigger and stronger than you, can't take advantage of you. So it's about using those other skills that you have and being aware of those other skills that you have, and using that to help you out in difficult situations, as is what is shown in the film.
Mm-hmm. Justine?
Yeah, so my film is titled Kintsugi, and Kintsugi is actually a Japanese art form of mending broken pottery with golden lacquer. And for my film, I was really curious how I could apply this art form as a metaphor for resiliency in human beings, and also reclamation of identity. So one of the metaphors of Kintsugi is that the history of the object is critical and really important to what the object is and who the people are that you're applying the metaphor to. So cracks, flaws, and imperfections are cherished and highlighted in your own identity. And it's not something that you hide away from or try to put on a facade of perfectionism. So for me, this metaphor was sort of ingrained with my own exploration of my Japanese American identity and family history and lineage. So I think for my film, it's my character sort of going through these process of kintsugi and of healing and reclamation.
Beautiful. Christy.
Yes, hi. My film is Trill, which is about a young woman who encounters stage fright or anxiety and lack of self-confidence. So, she has to go ahead and find some sort of coping mechanism, despite, a familial lack of support or external lack of support. So it's about finding that strength and still chasing after your hopes and dreams.
Beautiful. Brandon.
So my film is a music video for a song called Water and Oil by Jenni Rudolph. And the song is about kind of the somewhat odd experience of being multiracial and of not fitting neatly into boxes like that, and the cultural expectations of being a certain race, and questions about like, am I Asian enough to belong in an Asian space? And we tried to explore that using little vignettes in the video, like Jenni doesn't know how to use chopsticks. And I thought it was very brave of her that she wanted to like have that be a moment in the video. And she also has very wavy hair that she has a mixed relationship with having, and has a history of trying to fight that to get it to do certain styles. And not a lot of Chinese people have thoroughly wavy, thick hair. So we were trying to explore that, the cultural expectations, the beauty expectations, and just what do you do? How do you figure it out when you're not neatly one thing or another?
Mm-hmm. Cool. And Erica.
Actually, my sister has thick wavy hair, so I feel that, and I'm Chinese. So my name's Erica. I directed Americanized. I wrote it based on my experiences growing up in Oakland, California, being fifth generation Chinese American. So I feel like when I was growing up, I didn't really understand, I guess, like what it meant to be Chinese American, like if I had to have a strict definition, kind of like Brandon was talking about, because my family didn't really celebrate some of the traditions, like we did like Chinese New Year or whatever, but I think at school I was kind of criticized for not speaking Chinese. And so the story is basically just trying to understand, like, how do I fit in with the Asian kids? But that's also the only Asian girl on the basketball team, so it's more like the day in the life of a basketball player.
Very nice. Okay, so I have a few direct questions to all of you. Florence, I was wondering if it was hard to find subjects for your film, and what has been the impact for you in completing this film, and maybe for your subjects in seeing the film?
Oh, it was very, very hard to find subjects that were willing to go on camera. On camera is the key word. Lots of people were like, wow, when they heard I was coming with this idea, they're like, that's great. No one has done this, and we really need stories, but just don't tell my story. It's just that, yeah. And so it was, thankfully there were, 3 people who were willing to share their story and really bare their soul, like especially Kayla. She's one of the main characters, and she has gone through a lot. Interestingly, she has actual Inuit background as well, so that was an interesting dynamic. I didn't really play too much on that aspect, but and another girl that shared about her experience, she's actually gone through quite a lot of healing herself, so she was more distant. She still she was still hesitant to speak out on it, and as a result of the film, I ended up writing a web article about it, and asked if other people wanted to respond. And I'm in Canada, and there were 5 women who reached out from different places, and they were interested in sharing. I mean, I didn't end up doing anything quite with material, like their stories, but each of them, I shared most of my film with most of them. the thing was, they're like, I've never, first of all, read anything about this, about people, like especially Asian women, and this mental health, and they really resonated with the film, and they were like, wow, more people. So and this is part of, I mean, I have had mental health challenges in the past, and that happened more than 10 years ago, and it took this long to even think I should do something. So I think it's a healing, like even if it's not on film or recorded, but if more and more people are encouraged to speak about it, then that's healing in itself, like because they're seen and they're heard. So yeah, definitely, I feel, and I didn't anticipate that, so that's kind of the thing. It was definitely very difficult to find anyone to say, yeah, I'm going to go on film, or they agreed and then they just said, oh, maybe not. But anyway, yeah, thanks.
Yeah, I can imagine that, because again, your film is about mental health. And as you point out in the film, it's such a taboo topic. Nobody wants to talk about it. Nobody has it, that they can admit to. So yeah, it's very complicated. So congratulations on the film, and thanks for doing it. Okay, so Ray, I'm gonna, so first of all, I want to say that your actor in the film that plays the guy, like he gets the award for just nailing that creep factor in the film, that all women know that guy, we've all experienced that. So he is great. And I wanted to ask you, how did you come up with that storyline? It's funny, it's great.
It is, and I will pass that word along to Scott Ford. He's a great creepy guy.
Well, and then the thing is, he's probably like the nicest guy on the planet, is what I'm guessing. Yeah,
he really
yeah.
is. But what's really strange with this film, and I've made a lot of films. I am a filmmaker. I went to film school, and so for the past 40 whatever years, I've done a lot of films. And then COVID hit. And so it was the time period before there was a vaccine, and it was definitely masking and social distancing. It's like, God, I haven't made a film in a long time, and I really want to make a film. And my wife had an eye doctor appointment, so I drove her there because she was getting her eyes dilated, and so I was just going to sit there and wait. So I sat there in our car and said, okay, I got to think of an idea for a film I can do during the pandemic, because I got to make something. And so really, I threw in certain requirements, social distancing being one of them, not a lot of characters being another. And so this whole idea of, okay, you've got this guy and this woman trying to stay away from him, and we've social distanced them. So it was really a forced kind of, I need to come up with a concept, which I don't usually work that way, but it was like I was so in need of coming up with an idea for something I could do during the pandemic to create a worthwhile film, and that just kind of blossomed out of there, and it ended up being a lot of fun to do, and so
well yeah, and your ending is just for like, that just seems, where did that come from?
I don't know.
Wow, really? Wow, that's so funny.
I do not know, but I knew once I hit that concept, it was like, that's it.
So it's not like you knew anybody with that kind of special skill.
No, I did not at all. So, but it seemed like something that could happen to resolve the issue, and so I don't know. It just kind of came to me, so I was glad.
That was great. That was great. Thanks. Justine, I was wondering, what has been the impact for you on making this film?
Yeah, definitely. I think for me, well, when I made this film, it was also during just the beginning of the pandemic. And I actually created this film for my senior capstone project for my undergraduate career. So the entire film was made basically with me living at home, but surrounded by family, which I'm very grateful for. So in the film, family is a very integral part of not only the story, but also the filmmaking process for me. And that my family helped me throughout the process. Like my sister helped film some parts when I needed a cameraman. And then I was also able to interview my 4 grandparents for the film and learn more about their immigration stories, but also their own experiences with resiliency and also happiness and love in their life. So I think for me, being able to create this film with family around me was just a very special experience. And I think it only highlights the meaning of Kintsugi to me that much more as well.
It's so sweet to hear your family at the end of the film. And yeah, it's just very sweet and really cool that what comes out of the filmmaking process, just, you know, when you decide you're going to make a film about something, it just becomes more than maybe what you even thought it would be, just by going through the process of thinking it through and talking to people and things like that. Yeah, great. Thank you. Let's see. Christiane, is this a personal story for you? And if so, what has been the impact for you to tell it?
Yes, the story of Trill is definitely based off of kind of true experiences growing up and throughout my career. I grew up, being really creative and really enjoying art forms and music and creative writing, but I went a completely different path in terms of my career. So I went down like a tech route instead of chasing my creative goals. And I think it was, much of it was due to a lot of pressure. So a lot of social pressure and a lot of family pressures of, you have to go into this particular field, go into this particular industry. Anything else is anything that's creative. If you want to do art, if you want to do music, is a waste of time. And so, so I wanted to make this film because it's kind of like a cathartic experience for me to, show and share with others that this, may be an experience that others are going through, and to find the strength and resiliency to still inevitably chase after what you really enjoy doing.
Was your experience actually auditioning to sing? And oh, wow. Wow.
Yes, I mean, I remember specifically in college, I would try to audition for a cappella groups or a musical theater production. And I was so scared. And I even remember the specific songs that I would choose, whether it was Phantom of the Operas, like Think of Me. And I would just be there just like shaking, and my voice would shake and I wouldn't be able to squeak out anything. But then once you get home and you go through the process of like grief and sadness, and then you kind of, start to sing to yourself and you're like, I can do this. I can actually do this for myself and make myself feel better.
Yeah. Yeah, it was great. The actor was wonderful. You really, I could feel that whole shaking, and we all have had that experience, if not necessarily standing up and singing a song, but we all have our times where we just feel so vulnerable and inadequate, and it's scary. And she does a great job of making us all feel that. And yeah, it was great.
Thank you.
Yeah. Brandon, I wanted to ask you, the artistry of your film is so beautiful. The coloring, the fluid images, and of course the representation of the community of racially mixed people. I was wondering how much of those were your choices, or was the entire music video collaboration with the songwriter?
Thank
or
you.
The musician? Yeah.
I would call it highly collaborative. Jenni had a pretty clear idea of at least what the tone of the video should be, and that was in line with what I felt excuse me, when I heard the song. And she had a lot of really fantastic ideas that she brought to the table. One of her most prominent ideas was that the color palette of like indigo and golden, that was her idea. And then my idea was to build upon that and to find locations that were predominantly indigo or predominantly golden, and to have this color story, this very simple color story that sums up a fairly common racially mixed experience, which is you try to live your life one way, it doesn't really work. You try to live your life the other way, it doesn't really work. And eventually you have to kind of abandon those ideas for your own definition of who you are and how you want to live. And that's why we have like the purple set, the golden set, and then at the very end when she's on that rooftop, that environment is both. She's wearing both colors, and both colors decorate the environment. The imagery of like Jenni's silhouette and like the swirling kind of paint looking colors, I was very inspired by the True Detective season 1 intro, and that it's a very easy to read thing, just like a one-on-one, like this is what's going on internally inside a person, just simple imagery like that. And yeah, it was highly collaborative. And Jared, our cinematographer, also brought a lot of great ideas to the table, because I live in the Bay Area and Jenni and Jared both live in LA, so I was never on set. So there was a lot of Zoom calls and a lot of phone calls about how each environment should be shot and like what should the costumes be and everything like that. But at a certain point, I just had to let go and not worry about it and hope they got the footage for the day.
Wow, that's really interesting. Cool. Well, nice job.
Thank you.
Erica, so I know this is based on a personal story, and I was wondering, what was it like going back to high school, your high school, in fact, to make this film and explore this storyline, and maybe even talk to some of the people that you had known back then? I don't know. Tell me about that. What was this experience like making this film?
Yeah, well, I actually go back to Oakland pretty often. I'm based in LA, but I've been talking to my teacher, Mr. Fry, for a really long time, because he is the one that encouraged me to learn filmmaking at 15. So I think the hardest part was figuring out the personality of a teenager. I'm definitely nowhere near my teens, and I kind of forgot what it was like being in high school. So I think the dialogue was kind of hard for me. Like, what do kids talk like? How do they sound like nowadays? But, also thinking about the time period's 2001, so I can kind of use the language that I use and have to be like that TikTok cool kid generation that I don't understand. So it was actually a lot easier after I kind of removed that kind of feeling and I have to be current and just use my own dialogue in it. That to me was the biggest challenge. But it was really cool. Like, walking through the locker room, smelling how it smells like when I was playing ball or when I used to dance, and still kind of smells and looks the same. It was all trash all over the place. Like, it's a public school. So it's like, it's kind of went downhill a little bit, but it's still as shitty as I remember. So it's kind of, bringing up that nostalgia and kind of helped with with directing it too.
Yeah, I was thinking if I went back to my high school, it would probably sort of feel a little traumatic for me to go back to that high school space and time and mindset again.
You just kind of like grow up. I think you can only talk about your trauma if you grew from it. And same with like the whole conversation of identity. I can only talk about it after I understood my identity, which is like when in my late 20s. So even as a kid, and that's why the ending is very open, like you don't know who you are. You're 16, you're kind of dumb. So that was kind of the point of it. But after kind of understanding myself as an adult, it was a lot easier to portray myself as a kid.
How successful were you at the time navigating the Asian community in school and having to be the only Asian girl on the basketball team? How did that
I mean, the basketball team didn't care I was Asian. They just cared if you could.
If you could play,
So
yeah.
if you can play, it's all ego. So I wanted to make that separation really clear in the film, but also in real life. Like I still talk to my teammates, like they're super chill. I don't talk to many of the Asian kids anymore. I don't talk to that many people from high school, to be honest. Like who does? Like I have like 1 or 2 friends, like let's be honest. So yeah, I mean, I think like I try to be a part of like ASU, which is like a scene in the film where you like go on lunch and hang out with the kids. But I just never felt like I was a part of them. I felt like they were like 10 steps ahead of me. But I think the biggest lesson I learned through making the film is that we all felt awkward. We all felt like we didn't like each other. And so after I made the film, I had people from my high school reach out to me too. And, you know, we kind of shared our high school experiences and they're like, we had no idea you felt that way. And some people were like, I felt awkward. I'm like, what are you talking about? You're so popular. Like everyone knew and liked you, but they don't feel that way. And I think like that's the universality of this whole theme. Is just like we all felt like we didn't belong, even though it looked like we did.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and so here's the big question for you that came up from our screeners. So the boiled egg thing, is that a thing? None of us had heard of that before.
Oh my God.
And maybe you can explain it because I don't think these other filmmakers know what we're talking about.
Oh my God, come on. Actually, my friend's Mexican and she said that her grandma does that too.
Okay, because so Pam, our executive director, she's Chinese. And like I said, Pam, that must be a Chinese thing. She goes, nope, I never heard of that.
It's a certain like superstitious thing, but I mean, a lot of the film is based on like true events and things that happened to me. And I was visiting my grandma one time and she had a black eye and I thought someone hit her. But she said she fell, which I still don't believe to this day. But she was rubbing a boiled egg on her eye and I was asking her what she was doing. And she's like, you got to rub the egg and then the bruise goes away into the egg. And then after that, you eat it. And I remember thinking that's like the most superstitious Chinese thing I've ever heard in my life. And Chinese people are very superstitious. And I felt like that was a very fast way to talk about culture in a way that like only certain people might understand it. Because I mean, I some people did understand what it means, but I think it's just like a very niche thing that only, I don't know, maybe some Cantonese.
Yeah, like how many people on this panel have heard of that? Have you heard of that? Like we didn't hear that. And then so is it only like if you have a black eye or a bruise on your knee? It works the same.
Bruise. I think it's also the gentleness of the heat and the eye portion of it. It's just like rubbing it on your face. It's a true thing. And then actually at Philly, this one girl at Philly said the same thing. Like her family knew about that too. So it could be a niche thing. Like my family is like more like the Cantonese Asian, I mean, Chinese people. Did that make sense? So maybe it's a cultural thing, but from where she's from, it could be that.
It did look, it looked like it would feel kind of comforting. And
you know, I actually looked it up because I thought she was BSing, and then I Googled it, and apparently boxers have done it before because it's just a heat compress. That's all it really is. The fact that you eat it is like, now you're getting into a world of superstition.
Well, that's the Chinese part of you don't waste it, right? If you
don't waste food.
You don't waste.
To this day, I cannot waste anything on my plate. I have anxiety of like that one last piece of food, you got to eat it. And so I think that's where it comes from too.
Yeah, cool. Well, thanks. This has been great. Does anyone else have anything else you want to add? Maybe some thoughts that, go ahead.
Well, I just want to say thank you, Susan and DisOrient. It's so great to have this festival, and this is my second time in, and my first experience there was just so wonderful, and I'm excited for a full year of coming back up there too. So I just want to say thanks to everyone that helps out, all the volunteers that keep this festival going.
Thanks. We really appreciate that, and we love your T-shirt. And anyone else? Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you so much. And I hope everybody who's watching this Q&A loves all the films and has a chance to check them out. And I appreciate you being here. Thank you.